Hello. Well, anyone who's watched any of my videos knows that I was a first-time pool owner last year. And as such, I was learning all sorts of fun things about owning a pool. Now, fortunately, I went through a lot of YouTube university type training where I went through and watched a whole bunch of people do a whole bunch of things. And frankly, I learned a ton from a lot of you. But one of the things I did was upgrade my system to instead of have 1¼ inch hoses to go 1½ inch hoses. And that improved my system actually very well. I improved my suction and it just made things a lot easier to make connections and such. It allowed me to add plunger valves, to turn off the water, and it really was great. The downside to it was that it still had to connect to 1¼ inch portions of the basic pool. So the pool has water going out of the pool in 1¼ inch, I'll call them nipples, but basically just openings, okay? And even if I added an adapter to make that a 1½ inch hose, it still was going out at 1¼ inch. And so it will go out at a 1¼ go into 1½ inch hose, go down into a T. The T was 1¼ and so again, it did improve the suction. It did improve the water flow. I don't want to downgrade that at all. It did absolutely work and made things better. But one of the things I also did was add an Intex skimmer. And the Intex skimmer goes on the inside of the pool. And it actually was a great skimmer. That skimmer cleaned my pool very, very well. The thing that I did wrong was I used it all the time. And the rules state on this that when there are people in the pool, you're supposed to take it out of the pool and play in the pool, have a good time. And when people aren't in the pool, you put it back in the pool and let it do its thing. I didn't want to do that. I tried to cheat the system, so I always had it in there because I always wanted a clean pool. And so when the kids would get in there and splash around, make waves and such, it would cause enough turbulence that skimmer would want to bounce up and sometimes come out of the water, and it would start to suck air. And because of my impatience, and just trying to cheat the system, it just provided more of a headache for me because I didn't want to have to clamp it down, put it back in, and things of that nature. So what I did this year was I upgraded the system again. And in this time, I got a Hayward skimmer. And the Hayward skimmer goes on the outside of the pool. And that meant I had to make the commitment to cut a hole in the pool. And that was not really a big commitment to do based off of how my pool was laid out. So I'm going to tell you this much. Please watch the video. You'll see how I put it in and the benefits of it. I'm going to make a recommendation to do this system for 3 reasons. All right. The first reason, number one, is to keep your pool clean. If you want the debris to be caught before it gets to the bottom of the pool and you have to scoop it up and all that such, just get a skimmer, any skimmer for that matter, but this skimmer is a great solution for that. The second reason for this is that it's an external skimmer, so you can keep it on or out. It's just always going, so your kids making waves and turbulence and things of that nature won't have any impact on the effect of the skimmer. The skimmer will always work. It will never bob out of the water. The third reason, and arguably the best reason, is that you get to upgrade your entire system to 1½ inch hoses. And that is probably the best thing about it, because upgrading to 1½ inch hoses allows a serious improvement in pressure and suction and everything else. So again, I did that last year, but I still had the 1¼ inch pinch points, which still created a reduction in pressure. While going from straight 1¼ up to the 1½ that I did create an improvement, I still didn't have the maximum amount of pressure I could. This way of doing it, using this particular Hayward skimmer and the way I have it set up, does let you get 1½ inch hoses throughout, which improves your suction and pressure tremendously. So check out the video. If you have any questions, please drop a line in the comments. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hello. It's 1 year later. We have taken the pool down for the season, and it is now getting into the good season, so we're putting it back up. So it's Mother's Day 2021, and Mama wanted her pool up, and we're putting it up. We cannot blame her. So the first thing we're doing in an upgrade is we are upgrading the old skimmer to a Hayward Dynaskim version. Now, I do have a video from my old skimmer, and this is just the framework of it, but just to remind you of what it is. And by the way, this skimmer does work fine. I don't really have a problem with it except one thing, and that is the way this works is it plugs into the pool inlet, or the outlet I should say, or whatever they call it, where the water goes out of the pool. And when you have kids playing in the pool and such, even though I was able to grip this onto the pool edge just fine, what ends up happening is the kids create waves and such, and it loses the bite, and this thing starts to float upwards like this. And when that happens, it comes out of the pool a little bit, and you get air. And when you get air, that's never a good thing. And it's really what you're supposed to do is take this out of the pool whenever anybody's in the pool by just simply, unclamping it, put it back on when no one's in the pool and let it work. But that's not really what I wanted to do. So as a skimmer, you can set this thing up and it will work just fine as a skimmer. It's actually a good skimmer. It cleans the water great. But I didn't want to deal with that. So I've made the decision to cut a hole in the pool. So we're going to start with this one. Now, one of the first things we have to do when we deal with these skimmers is we have to swap out some of the parts that came with the Intex pool or your Bestway pool. One of the parts that this actually came with is this eyeball inlet, right? And there's nothing really special about this eyeball inlet. This is a standard eyeball inlet. It is much better, in my opinion, than the Intex ones because it allows you to move the eyeball in much more wider range of motion than the Intex one. This is tightened down right now, but you can really just move it any way you want. And it is really important that you have your eyeball inlet installed when you have a skimmer system because it will really help with getting the water from one point to the other. So again, this comes with the skimmer, so it's not something additional you have to purchase. And as a reminder, you basically are going to install this where the water comes into your pool from the filter. In this case, it's going to be where that hole is. All right. And the idea is that you point your eyeball, all right, in the direction that you want it to flow. In my case, I'm going to point it in a clockwise direction. So it's going to flow and point the water to flow around the edge of the pool, all right, all the way around the edge, and pretty much where you see the old skimmer there, that's where I'm going to cut a hole in my pool right around there where the water will come out. Now, because this is a non-Bestway Intex product, we have to remember that the threadings for anything you screw into it will probably not work because Bestway and Intex tend to use metric threading, and if you're in the United States, it's not metric threading. And to help with this, there's a very cheap and easy product. I got it on Amazon, and you can find them all over the place, but it is the Game Filter Hose Conversion Kit. And as you can see, it's for Intex, Bestway, and Polygroup pools and equipment, right? And on the back side, it really tells you pretty simple directions, but as you can see, it connects 40 millimeter hose to 1.5 inch standard filter ports. And the idea is, if you can see some pictures on here, those are pumps and such that are non-Intex, but they're attaching Intex fittings to it, or Intex pipes to it, and hoses to it. And so you need something so you can screw it in, all right? So it gives you directions. By the way, the part number, I believe, is that one right there, 4560. But what comes in that package is 2 of these, 2 gaskets, 2 rubber gaskets, and pipe threading tape. And the reason that I'll be using these, I'm glad it came with 2, is because I need 2 of them. All right, now the first one is going to go into this fitting. So as a reminder, this is going to be on the inside of my pool. This is going to be on the outside of my pool. All right, so this little washer right here, this big washer, I should say, comes off and it screws on. Well, if I didn't have an Intex pool, I would attach my hose right to this threading. But because this is not an Intex fixture, or whatever you want to call it, it is not metric. So I probably could screw in my plunger valve or hose or whatever to this, and it might work. All right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It really just comes down to how much teeth you want to have bit onto this. So the way this is designed to work is to say, okay, we'll take this. I'm going to turn it on its side for a second. You take the short end, the small end. It's got a rubber gasket on it. And I'm not going to screw it all the way in, but you're going to get the idea here. Basically, you just put it on the inside threading, so male to female, like so. All right, it's not screwed down all the way, but and you got the rubber gasket on there, and there you go. So again, this will be on the inside of the pool, this will be on the outside of the pool. Now what I get to do is take my plunger valve. All right, this is where my water comes into the pool from my filter. All right, and now I simply attach it by attaching this to this. Now this is made to be metric, so this is 40 millimeter. So this is now going to bite into a Bestway Intex product just fine, and it's not going to have an issue. That smaller portion, threaded portion that went inside here is non-metric, which fits into this non-metric piece, and so now I'll have a nice bite. Again, it comes with a couple of rubber gaskets, and they want you to put the rubber gaskets on this edge right here, which makes sense. The only issue is that I have, especially with this particular piece, is that I already have a gasket on here, so I don't need to put two gaskets. But the other one of these, the other piece, is going to go on the other side, and I already have it on here actually, on the other side of my actual skimmer. Okay, so this is the skimmer part that's going to go on the outside of the pool. And so again, same concept, all right, because I have Intex hose, it's not going to attach to this. First of all, this is too big for it, right? And because this is a bigger diameter than the Intex hose. But I was able to screw it inside to here and be able to get a good bite. Now this is just dry fitted in here for just for demonstration purposes, but I will be threading this. Get this out real quick. I will be threading this and putting that on there. And depending on the Intex hose that I put on here, I probably will end up putting one of those gaskets on there because I don't believe my Intex hose has a gasket on that end. So we'll show you how that works here as we continue to install this bad boy. All right. So again, this I have parts in here, so it's all clattering around. But the way this works is this is basically going to sit on the outside of the pool, which means I'm going to have to cut a hole in the pool, but I'm willing to do that. And here's an added bonus to why I'm willing to do this. Okay, set that down. My pool was built on a slab, and because it's built on a slab, it has to have a slope so that the water, when it rains, drains from this side of the slope out into my lawn. And it's a very gradual slope, and I asked them to do that on purpose. But generally speaking, that edge of the pool right there is the lowest end of the pool, meaning that the water tends to be deepest at that point. Whereas as we come around basically to right where I'm at here, this is the highest end of the pool, which means that it's the shallowest end. And that buys me about 1.5 inches extra space at this end of the pool. Just about 1.5 inches. And again, this is a 20-foot pool, so I tend to fill my water all the way to where the blue liner meets the wicker print. That tends to be where I stop. So it'll probably be filled all the way up to there. But as I come all the way around to this other edge of my pool, all right, when I come all the way to here, it'll probably be about 1.5 inches, maybe as much as 2 inches shorter. And that's good because you want the water to be able to flow into that skimmer. So coming up next here, we'll show you how we fill this up. Now, or how we install this anyways. Before you ever put one of these skimmers in, it's important that you have a decent amount of water in your pool, because you need the liner to have tension. Okay, it needs to have tension. It can't have really any slack in it, because you're going to cut a hole. And it's going to be, when you install this, it's going to have a substantial amount of tension to cut it, and you don't want it to be loose and then it stretches it and puts a rip in it and things of that nature. So wait till your pool's got some water in it, and that's the best time to do it. All right, so we'll come back in a little bit, probably when we get almost all the water in the pool, and we will install the filter and start to start to cut in the new skimmer. Talk to you shortly. Okay, so after a little bit of thought and knowing what I dealt with last year and knowing what I'm having to upgrade my pool to, I decided to make one slight upgrade. So as we just discussed, I got this adapter that goes into the skimmer. Okay. My dilemma is that in my old setup, I used to have plunger valves right here, which let me turn off the water going out to the filter anytime I want to on both of those. This does not have that ability. There's no ability to turn off the water short of turning off the pump. So I decided, well, the solution to that is to get a ball valve. Easy enough, no problem. So the idea here now is, instead of using this, I went to Lowe's and I got this. This is a 1.5 inch adapter, and the way this works is we're going to take and use this instead. So this is going to screw into there instead. All right, something like that. And then we're going to get a piece of 1.5 inch pipe. All right, that's going to go inside here. Just a small piece, just, maybe enough to go about to right there. And then we're going to take and put that right on top of that piece, so it looks something like that. Now, this is going to be inverted, all right? And what this is going to let me do is, if for any reason I need to shut off the water, so no water flows in and out anywhere, I literally can just turn this valve, and water that would normally be just flowing into here and going out to the pump won't. It'll just stop right there. Now, the second thing I'm doing is I'm repurposing some of the flexible PVC that I have. So I'm going to be, I created a sprinkler system last year that worked fine, but I'm actually going to do something different this year. I'll create a video on that. But what I did last year was I took this flexible PVC that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot or anything, and check my other video for how I created that coupling. But I'm going to repurpose this. So I still have that coupling, which attaches out from my filter, in this case here from where the saltwater chlorinator. And what I'm going to do is follow this over here. So I'm going to cut it off right at that T. It's going to cut it right there. And that's where I'm going to attach to the ball valve. All right. So the next shot here, you'll see what that looks like. And what that's going to do is give me a nice longer span to be fair, from this nipple all the way out to my filter. Because usually what happens is, when these pools come in, you have a short run that comes out to say about right there, and then this one here comes out to say about right there, and there's a T, and then that short run goes out to your filter. Well, reality is I need something to go from all the way here to here, and the Intex tubes don't really go that far. So you can buy this flexible PVC at your Home Depot or Lowe's. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but it's not too expensive. And it's well worth it. You just buy it by the foot and figure out how long you're going to need it and go from there. So that's what I'm going to do, and we'll show you what it looks like here in a second. Okay, so we're all done. As you can see, I have glued the flexible PVC into the ball valve, and this has really simplified the process. Now what you see here, and this is on each of the old nipples, this is just redundancy. So instead of keeping those plugs in there, which is just dumb, and they'll just fall out anyways, I put in the plunger valves. I put them on the off position, and just in case somebody accidentally opens them up, the water goes out into the tube, connects to the old T, which is actually capped off at the T point. All right, and then connects to the other inlet with the other valve there. So that's just redundancy. That's just in case water gets in, it stays trapped. All this means now is water is going out of my pool from one location, and it makes an absolute improvement, because what it's doing is now, in the past, it went in, it left my pool in 1 1/4 openings. Now it leaves in 1 1/2, and it's 1 1/2 the entire way into the pump and all the way out of the pump. And what that does is it creates a huge increase in pressure. And if you put your hand in front of that eyeball valve there, oh my gosh, the pressure is tremendous. It's just way better than it was with 1 1/4. So highly recommend doing this. You can see the water just comes in and goes straight into the filter, collects everything. The water goes in a clockwise motion, comes all the way around, and then you can see as debris just kind of comes around, it just makes its way close to it and just kind of gets sucked in. So again, I highly recommend this. This is debris from last year, so it's going to take a while. I just turned this bad boy on. I'm going to give it about an hour just to see. We'll check it in about an hour and we'll see what's going on. All right, it has been a week since, well, not even a week, it's been 5 days since I set this up, and you can tell that my pool is clean. Now that has to do with two things. Number one, I did get a new vacuum, but I got that vacuum on purpose. It's the little shark, and I have a different video on that one. But that was the type of vacuum that hooks up to the skimmer. So as you can see, my pool is clean. Now, like I said before, I fill up my pool to basically where the blue liner meets the wicker print, which is pretty much where I have at the deep end, if you will. And you can see that is the case. And then when you come around to where the skimmer is, you've got maybe an inch or two of opening, which is by plan. That's just due to the slope of the pad beneath us. But you can really see that this has done a wonderful job of keeping the pool clean. Again, the added bonus here is that I have 1 1/2 inch hoses throughout my entire system. Again, before it was 1 1/4 out. Even though I had 1 1/2 inch hoses, it still went out at 1 1/4, and I still went into 1 1/4 T right there. And I did get an improvement in suction, don't get me wrong, but when I switched to this, let me tell you, the amount of pressure that was increased was tremendous, and you will definitely notice it where you see the water come into your pool. Okay, so my recommendation is, if you want a clean pool, get yourself a good skimmer. This Hayward skimmer was very, very easy to put in, and it does a good job. It does an excellent job. It allows you to get a good vacuum to suck in all the debris on the bottom of your pool. It actually gets sucked into the actual strainer basket. I just disengaged this for you, but you can see all the debris at the bottom of the pool just gets sucked in the basket for you just to clean out. And you get 1 1/2 inch pipes, hoses, so you can get better pressure. So what can you go wrong with it, huh? The hardest part about this system, there was only one hard part, and that was getting those darn screws through the liner. I think that was probably the hardest part, but other than that, it wasn't hard at all. So hope this works out for you, and let me know if it doesn't. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop me a line in the comments section, and we'll talk to you soon.